What if I told you that one of the most common items of clothing women wear today has a history going back over 2,000 years? What if I told you it was banned, burned, reinvented, fought over, and that the woman most people think invented it actually didn't? Today, we're diving into one of the most fascinating, surprising, and honestly underrated stories in fashion history. The history of the bra. Let's go. Most people assume the bra is a modern invention, a 20th century thing, something that came along with department stores and fashion magazines. Wrong. Very wrong. The story begins in ancient Greece, around 2,500 years ago. Greek women who were athletic or physically active would wrap a band of cloth or leather around their chest called an apodesmos, which literally translates to binding of the breast. We can actually see this in ancient Greek pottery and sculptures. Women athletes, dancers, and warriors are depicted wearing these chest bands. This wasn't about fashion, it was purely functional. Support and freedom of movement. Then the Romans picked it up. They called it a strophium, or fascia, and Roman women across all social classes used versions of it. So right there, before electricity, before cars, before basically anything we consider modern, women had already figured out that some kind of chest support made life easier. Then, something happened. The Roman Empire fell. The medieval period arrived, and chest support basically disappeared for nearly 1,000 years. European women relied entirely on their dresses and gowns for support. Tight-fitting bodices built into clothing did the job, but there was nothing worn underneath separately. And then came something that changed everything, and not in a good way. By the 1500s, the Renaissance period, a new garment had taken over European fashion, the corset. And for the next 400 years, it would dominate women's clothing in a way that is honestly hard to believe today. Corsets were rigid, heavily structured undergarments typically made with whalebone or metal rods sewn inside, designed to cinch the waist as tightly as possible and push the chest upward. How tight? Some women had their waists. A standard piece of A4 paper is about 8 inches wide. Their waists were the width of 2 pieces of paper. The results were devastating. Women wearing extreme corsets reported broken ribs, displaced organs, difficulty breathing, and fainting, which is actually why fainting couches were a common piece of furniture in wealthy homes. Women fainted so regularly from tight corsets that they needed a specific piece of furniture for it. But here's the truly wild part. This wasn't just fashion pressure from outside. Many women chose to wear them tightly because a small waist was the ultimate beauty standard of the era. Mothers would begin corseting their young daughters from childhood, so their waists would develop smaller. By the late 1800s, 2 movements were pushing hard against the corset, and they couldn't have been more different from each other. The first was the medical community. Physicians, many of them women, which was revolutionary in itself, began publishing widely read articles arguing that corsets were literally killing women. The national dress reform movement in America gained serious momentum, arguing women deserved comfortable clothing that didn't damage their bodies. The second force, women entering the workforce and sports. As more women began riding bicycles, yes, bicycles were controversial for women, playing tennis, swimming, and entering offices and factories. The corset became not just uncomfortable, but genuinely impossible to work in. So inventors started experimenting. And here's where the history gets really interesting and a little complicated. In 1889, a French woman named Herminie Cadolle created something remarkable. She cut a corset in half. The bottom half supported the waist, the top half supported the chest independently. She called the top piece a corselet gorge. Many historians consider this the true first modern bra. But then, here's the famous story most people know. In 1914, a young New York socialite named Mary Phelps Jacob got frustrated before a debutante ball. She had a sheer evening gown and didn't want her corset showing underneath. So she and her maid took 2 silk handkerchiefs and some pink ribbon and fashioned a simple, lightweight chest support. Her friends loved it. She started making them for others. She eventually patented the design. And that patent is why many textbooks credit her as the inventor of the modern bra. But, as we just saw, women had been working toward this for decades. Mary Phelps Jacob was the one who patented it. Herminie Cadolle was the one who first cut the corset in half. And 2,500 years of women before them had already understood the basic idea. In 1917, the United States War Industries Board made an extraordinary request to American women. They asked women to stop buying corsets because the metal used in corsets was needed for the war effort. The response was remarkable. American women largely complied, and the metal saved. Historians estimate it was enough to build 2 battleships, but here's the lasting impact once women stopped wearing corsets during the war. Most of them never went back. The lighter, more comfortable bra designs that had been developing filled the gap. By the time the war ended, the corset's dominance was effectively over. Then, in the 1920s, the era of the flappers, fashion moved toward flatter, more boyish silhouettes. Bra designs actually went in the opposite direction for a while, flattening the chest rather than supporting it. Yes, the ABCD system we still use today was invented in the 1930s by a medical device company. That's not a detail most people know. Now, let's talk about one of the most famous moments in bra history, one that almost everyone has heard of, and one that is almost entirely a myth. Bra burning. The popular story goes that in the 1960s and 70s, feminist protesters burned their bras as a symbol of liberation. You've heard it. It's practically common knowledge. What did happen was a 1968 protest at the Miss America pageant in Atlantic City, New Jersey. Feminist protesters threw items they considered symbols of oppression into a freedom trash can, but they never actually lit it on fire. City permits wouldn't allow open flames on the boardwalk. The fire, and therefore the bra burning, never happened. What is true is that the feminist movement of the 1960s and 70s had a complex and genuinely important conversation about bras. At the same time, the global bra industry is worth over $50 billion annually. So we've gone from leather chestbands in ancient Greece to a $50 billion global industry. That is one remarkable journey. The bra didn't start in a department store or a fashion magazine. It started with Greek athletes wrapping cloth around their chests 2,500 years ago. It survived the brutal corset era, where fashion caused genuine physical damage for hundreds of years. It was born in its modern form from a combination of medical activism, women entering the workforce, a socialite with 2 silk handkerchiefs, and a world war that needed metal. It was never actually burned, but it became the center of one of the most important conversations about women's choices and autonomy in modern history. And today, it remains both a personal choice and a cultural symbol, as relevant and debated as ever. The history of the bra isn't just the history of a garment. It's a window into how society has treated women's bodies, women's comfort, and women's choices across 25 centuries. And if that doesn't make it one of the most fascinating pieces of clothing ever made, I don't know what does. If you found this history as surprising as I did, hit that like button. Drop a comment with the fact that shocked you most. Was it the ancient Greek chestbands, the 2 battleships, or the bra-burning myth?